I now give the floor to Mr. Mustafa Kemal Kilinç, a youth representative from the earthquake zone in Turkey.
Mr. President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mustafa Kemal Kilinç. I am 23 years old. I am third year international relations student from Hatay, Turkey. You may know the name of my hometown, Hatay, because it suffered the most damage when earthquake struck Turkey on February 6. I am addressing you today as a survivor of devastating natural disasters. I would like to share with you my first-hand experience. I was in Hatay visiting my family. I was supposed to go back to my university in the city of Adana the next day. It was 4:17 a.m. Very strong tremors woke me up from deep sleep. My bed was shaking hard. When I tried to get up, the ground was shaking so violently that I felt it was going to swallow me. At first, I thought I was dreaming. As I struggled to regain my balance, the tremors became even stronger. I realized I was in the middle of a powerful earthquake. Furniture started to fall, windows broke, walls cracked, and plasters fell off. There was destruction all around us. Me and my family were all confused and scared, but we helped each other to reach safety. It was a horrible experience that made me feel very helpless and vulnerable. We left our building safely. The powerful earthquake finally stopped, but the aftershocks continued. Each one triggered more fear. We searched for a safe place to take shelter. It was a race against time because we didn't know when the next wave would hit us, and if it would be even stronger. When the sun came up, we saw the extent of the destruction around us more clearly. Countless buildings were in ruins, and people were on the streets homeless. Not only my hometown, Hatay, but 10 more provinces in Turkey were directly hit by the earthquake. In my city, physical destruction was heaviest. 14,000 buildings were destroyed. Additionally, 70,000 had heavy damage. Imagine that. 1 out of every 5 buildings in Manhattan was totally destroyed. Some of the places from my childhood memories no longer exist. I am here today because our building did not collapse. This is because our contractor had applied high standards to make our building earthquake resistant. Nevertheless, we could not go back to our home. The aftershocks were continuing, basic services like water and electricity were not available. So we lived in our car for a week. We were 7 people. We were mostly feeling cold inside the car because we could turn on the engine only from time to time. If the gas finished, we could not get more. We were grateful for the blankets they gave us. Then, we were lucky to stay in a train wagon for another week. There we finally felt warm. Eventually, we moved across the country to stay with some relatives. We returned to Hatay after a few weeks to try to build our lives back again. The days following the earthquakes, we were always torn between the joy of good news and the sadness of bad news. For several days, we could not reach many friends and relatives by phone. We were not sure who lived and who died. We would be happy when we found out someone was alive. We even experienced miracles. 5 of our relatives were rescued after 1,020 hours under the rubble. They stayed alive thanks to the 2 liters bottle of water that was next to their bed. But then we were crushed when we heard news of deaths. I lost many close and distant relatives, dear friends, teachers who are never coming back. In total, more than 50,000 people lost their lives in our country as a result of these earthquakes. Almost half of this was in my city. Getting their dead bodies out of the rubble was a challenge too. We waited for hours and even days to give them a proper burial. When we received their remains, we felt relief. We went through extreme emotions in a matter of days. We also saw disasters on top of disasters. Fires broke at the seaports because of collapsed containers. It took days to extinguish. There were also fires on the streets. Many survivors live on the streets in the middle of the dust and rubble, suffering from the cold weather and heavy rain. Then that rain turned into floods, killing more people and causing more destruction. Within a few days, we endured earthquakes, fires, and floods. It made us question if this was not the apocalypse. The earthquakes struck an area as large as many of your countries. Right after the earthquakes, roads and railways collapsed, making transportation difficult. So it was impossible for the authorities to provide large assistance right away. At first, all the victims helped each other to remove the rubble, save others, and provide aid. When our authorities, NGOs, and then many countries around the world mobilized to help, it lifted our spirits. We saw many foreign search and rescue teams on the streets. They were assisting Turkish officials. We also saw the United Nations vehicle and staff. On behalf of all the earthquake victims, I would like to express our deepest gratitude to all your nations that supported us in these difficult days. Ladies and gentlemen, we cannot predict natural disasters, but we can certainly be prepared whenever and wherever they happen. This is why I told you my story, so you understand what a disaster victim feels and experiences. I hope that as a result of your work here, there will be less disaster victims like myself around the world. Thank you for listening to me.
I thank Mr. Kilinç for his heartening and humbling eyewitness statement.